Final Fantasy. Oh wait, that's not right. Nope, that's still off. That's actually a spoiler. And that one's not even a video game. That's actually an overbearing media conglomerate. There we go. Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X. This is certainly one of the most interesting titles I have played in recent memory. And honestly, after playing it, I feel like some people may need some help when it comes to understanding its story. So, here I am, a totally certified expert on all things Final Fantasy, to give you a rundown on this little beauty. This is Final Fantasy X for Dummies. The game starts out on a beautiful night in Zanarkand where we meet our main protagonist, Tidus. Tidus is a professional blitzball player and is getting ready for his big match tonight. We follow him while he makes it on over to the stadium where his match for the night will begin. The match starts, and during it, the city actually gets attacked by a Sharknado. The Sharknado shoots out its little spawn and has him fly around the city, destroying everything. Tidus is running for his life until the Final Fantasy version of Morpheus, Auron, shows up. Auron throws him a sword and tells him to fight. During the fighting, the Sharknado starts to swallow up the city though. To save time, Morpheus ignores the red pill, blue pill speech and shoves the red one down Tidus' throat. After swallowing the pill, we get sucked up into the belly of the Sharknado, everything goes black, and this is where Tidus finally leaves the Matrix to learn what really is the reality he is living in. Tidus wakes up unaware of his surroundings and confused by everything around him. Some chick named Riku shows up and says, "You aren't ready to face the truth." Then she knocks him out, makes him fall into the ocean, only for Tidus to wake up again in a brighter, happier place. He is greeted by sunshine, palm trees, and blitzball, and the young SoundCloud rapper Waka Flocka Flame. Not knowing where he is, he asks Waka what's going on. He lets him know that he is actually in a place called Spira. He asks Waka where the city of Zanarkand is, so he can go home, but Waka reveals that the city was actually destroyed over 1,000 years ago by the Sharknado, also known as Sin. Not knowing what to do, Tidus decides to follow Waka into the village. On the way there, Waka fills Tidus in on what is known as the blitzball gangs. You see, back in Tidus' day, blitzball was merely a game to have fun and enjoy. But now, it's a heated blood sport run by a few crazy factions. He lets them know that there's a faction here known as the Bhed Bloods, and that they fall under the leadership of Yevon. There are a few other competitors and rival gangs as well, but the most hated one is the Albed Crips, who refuse to listen to Yevon and believe in the power of Machina. After giving him the rundown on the turf wars, he brings him over to the temple to explain the goings-on of Spira. You see, in Spira there are these things called summoners and guardians. A summoner is someone who's devoted their life to fighting the Sharknado, while a guardian is the companion and protector of the summoner. What the summoners do is go around temples collecting beanie babies to use against Sin. Waka lets him know that the current summoner who is in the temple has been in there for over a day, which is unusual, and that he is actually kind of worried for her safety. Being the main male protagonist of the story, Tidus decides to break all religious conventions and run into the temple to save her. This is where we meet our totally not obvious love interest that we would have never seen coming in a million years, Yuna. And also her guardians as well. And now that we have met everyone, we finally have our crew for the game. Our crew consists of the dominatrix Lulu, who loves leather and still has a thing for her teddy bear, our strong but silent type furry Kimari, rapper Waka Flocka Flame, who is the leader of the Bhed Bloods, some random chick named Riku, who we met for 2 minutes until we fell into the ocean, Morpheus himself, Auron, who could be a little bit nicer and explain some more things for us, Yuna the Beanie Baby Collector, who is apparently the daughter of the now dead Beanie Baby King Braska, and is the cutie that Tidus falls for, and the blonde Neo Tidus, who has daddy issues and struggles with his hold on reality. So, we basically have the whole Avengers assembled in one bunch here. The squad minus Morpheus and Riku gather to formulate their plan of attack for the future. The plan is to travel with Yuna to collect all of her Beanie Babies, which are unpopularly known as summons. Once she collects all of her summons, she can use them to kill Sin. Along the way though, we are first going to stop at the Blitzball tournament so that Waka can fight in the turf wars. Tidus, not really knowing what to do being in this new world of Spira, decides to tag along with the crew and help them on their journey. And this is where the story begins. Our first stop on the journey is a small seaport village named Kilika. On the way there, Sin shows up and attacks our ship and the village too. After the aftermath of the attack, we arrive at Kilika to see that multiple people have died. This is where we actually get to see Yuna's second occupation that she has besides being a summoner. She is also a ghost whisperer, and not like the lame fake Discovery Channel kind. When it comes to these dead souls, she sends them to the far plane to rest, and she does this by busting a groove and getting jiggy with it. After watching her dance, the squad rests up and heads over to the temple the next day. The Kilika temple is where Yuna will collect her second beanie baby Ifrit. When we arrive at the temple, we realize that it is actually currently filled up with a bunch of douchebags. We run into the rival gang known as the Luca Goers, and after talking major trash, they leave and we go inside the temple. Since Tidus isn't a guardian yet, he is still not allowed in, but there is another summoner there known as Donna. She shows up and makes fun of Tidus, and thinks it's actually funny to have him thrown into the temple despite him not being allowed. So after Tidus is thrown in, he wastes his time on a bunch of stupid puzzle and meets back up with the squad. When he meets back up with the squad, it's the same moment that Yuna is obtaining her new beanie baby / summon, Ifrit. Now that she has Ifrit to add to her collection, our next goal is to head out to Luca for the Blitzball tournament that will decide our turf wars. We head out by a ship, and at night we learn a little bit more about how jacked up mentally our crew is. Waka has severe depression and is racist towards the Bhed because his brother died while using their machina. Furry dude is still weird and doesn't really say much, and we just get a reinforcement that Tidus has major daddy issues. Apparently his dad said peace and dipped on him and his mama when he was young and was never seen again. But oh wait, by some weird coinky dink, apparently his daddy was a guardian for Yuna's dad, Braska, and they both died 10 years ago while fighting Sharknado. Along with that, we learn that Yuna also knows who Morpheus is as well, and he was actually partners with Tidus' shitty dad, Jekt, and Yuna's father. Yuna has a differing opinion of his dad, but they agree to disagree and go to bed until they can arrive in Luca the next day. They finally arrive in Luca for the tournament, and they get a humbling entrance from the local announcer. Since the tournament is going on, there is still technically a ceasefire, because this is a tradition when it comes to handing out the turf every year. While waiting for the tournament to start, we meet some interesting characters. We meet Maester Micah and Seymour, and from my years of experience when it comes to playing anime games, I honestly don't think we should trust the purple-haired one whose hair defies all laws of gravity. Seriously though, what kind of gel is he using? Literally, all anime antagonists' hair is so on point. Meanwhile, I can't even get a cowlick to stay down properly. After being in awe from the amazing hair of Seymour, the squad heads to the locker room to get ready for the game. Tidus was going to help in the match, but before it begins, him, Kimari, and Yuna head over to the bar because they hear that Morpheus is actually in town. While at the bar, Kimari gets in a fight with a few other furries over their favorite character, and the Bhed kidnap Yuna. Realizing she is gone, Tidus and Kimari meet up with Lulu to go save her. They save her, but Tidus misses the game because of it. During the game, Waka Flocka Flame gets injured, but he gets them the victory. The next game is coming up, and now you have to play in place for Waka since he's injured. After playing for like an hour, we finally lose because I suck at this virtual sport that I care nothing for. Shortly after this, they are attacked by Sin's fiends, and Seymour shows up and vaporizes them all with a Thanos snap. After that, the squad decides to head over to the next temple in Djose. Before parting though, Orange shows up and asks to join the squad, and they gladly accept. While on the way out, he takes Tidus to the side and tells him that the Sharknado Sin is actually his dad. Apparently his dad never died 10 years ago, and instead he was sucked into the tornado like in the Wizard of Oz, and he needs help to escape it. He says to keep this a secret though, because no one knows about this. The two of them rejoin with the group to continue Yuna's pilgrimage, and Tidus and Yuna decide to flirt. But it is actually kind of really awkward, and they just look like the reincarnation of both the Joker and Harley Quinn. After that weird moment, the squad continues on, and we eventually get a bit more of an explanation about Sin. Yuna tells us every time Sin is defeated, he is eventually reborn. Using common sense, Tidus questions why even bother fighting it. Yuna then shuts him down. She says that we fight Sin so that we can give the people of Spira hope. After that inspirational speech, our team keeps going down the path to Djose. They stop at a respite for the night, and while Tidus is flirting with Yuna again, he is being an oblivious oaf to her, dropping hints that, hey, The Sin thing is actually pretty bad, and she might not make it out. The next day comes eventually though, and they continue their journey. Right away we get attacked by some random monster that throws us off our path, and now we have to take an alternate route to Djose. On the alternate route there is a roadblock because apparently a truce was made between the Bhed and the Crusaders, which is a group of individuals who devoted their life to fighting Sin. The two parties are teaming up to have a battle with Sin, but they are using Machina for this battle. Waka, being a racist and all, has a problem with this, and he confronts the Maester Seymour, who is there and not stopping this at all. Being the totally not super obvious villain Seymour is, he says that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. The squad stays to watch the battle, and it kind of goes south. Big Daddy Sharknado shows up and he reveals himself to actually be just a big mutant shark thingy. Everyone starts attacking Sin, and he gets turned on from this and orgasms, which results in everyone who used Machina against him to die instantly. After already having his big O and killing half the army, he decides to dip until the next time. After witnessing this monstrosity of an event, the squad decides to start their journey again towards Djose. We reach the temple of Djose, and here Yuna collects her new Beanie Baby Lightning Unicorn. Now that we have Lightning Unicorn, we can travel to Guado to go to the next temple. On the way to Guado, another interruption happens, and Arnold Schwarzenegger Cat tells us that summoners are being kidnapped. We ignore his message and decide to ride some elephant things across the river to reach the temple. During the elephant ride, Yuna gets yoinked again, and we have to save her. We find out it is the Bhed that is kidnapping the summoners as well. We save Yuna and eventually reach the other side of the river. On the other side of the river, we see someone washed up on the shore, and it is Riku, the person who we briefly met in the beginning of the game. Now with Riku here, the whole gang is intact and ready for our adventure. We arrive at Guado, and while there, Seymour, who is the leader of Guado, apparently invites Yuna in to discuss some things. The man shows her a little episode and tells her that only love can defeat sin, and proposes to her. My man Tidus gets mad jealous but decides to say nothing to Yuna. After the proposal, Yuna tells him she needs some time to decide. So in the meantime, we go to visit the far plane, where everyone becomes broody as fuck and talks about the dead people they lost. After Tidus complains about his daddy issues again, the squad leaves the far plane, and on the way out, the ghost of Seymour's dad, Lord Driscoll, shows up and leaves behind a recording of his last words. From there, Yuna listens to the message and finds out that Seymour is actually evil. Seymour killed his own father for power, and that he also can't be trusted. So what does Yuna decide to do? She decides to become a little brooding emo, ignoring her only friends, leading them into danger without saying anything, and not telling them that she actually is deciding to marry Seymour as well. So the squad ventures off to meet him at the temple. Nothing much more happens in between that, just the usual Tidus daddy issues, Waka's racism rants, and a bunch of monsters that we gotta fight. They finally reach the temple, and the crew hands Yuna over to the Guado to make the proposal official. While Yuna is in the temple with Seymour, Tidus finds the message that Lord Driscoll left behind, saying how evil Seymour is and that his heart is full of darkness. And so Tidus tells the rest of the squad, and they come busting into the temple to save Yuna, and they all decide to kill Seymour. This amazing sequence of events caused by Yuna being an angsty teenager turns the squad into fugitives that have now been framed by the government for the murder of Seymour. But on a good note, we got another Beanie Baby. So since we are now fugitives, we go on the run. We get randomly attacked by a Yeti from Monsters Inc., end up under an ice lake, and then get high off the power of music so that we can get magically teleported into a random desert. Somehow during that last sequence of events, the whole team got separated, and we have to find each other again. Everyone gets found except our Princess Yuna. Looking for her, the team decides to go to home. And that's the end of the journey. They all go home, and that's all. Well, actually, home is the name of the Bhed capital. Yes, and it's spelled H-O-M-E, home. So basically the squad heads over to home because they believe Yuna is there. When they show up, the Bhed are actually being attacked by the Guado and losing badly. The squad navigates the battlefield and reaches a place where the Bhed are known to keep the summoners. Yuna is not there, and to make matters worse, Tidus finds out that Yuna is planning to essentially kamikaze herself to beat Sin. Not being able to face the reality that his boo will die, he starts to pout and cry. He eventually starts yelling at everyone and says that instead they will find a different way to save her. Before anyone can be saved, they have to escape the situation that they are in. We meet up with Sid, Yuna's uncle and Riku's dad. He has a big ol' airship that we leave on. On the way out, he nukes home, because if he can't have it, then no one can. We get a report that Yuna is actually in Bhed right now, and she is being forced into a marriage with Seymour, who we thought we killed. Apparently Seymour is an undead zombie man and can't be killed that easily. We show up to their beautiful wedding, and the pastor does his famous line saying, "Speak now or forever hold your peas." Tidus shows up and says no peas will be held on this day. They don't care, and Seymour mouth rapes Yuna to make the marriage official. The man is such a bad kisser that she pretends to commit suicide and jumps off a cliff. We pop a smoke bomb emoji and escape as well, since there is no reason to stay because no one brought a wedding cake. Knowing how Yuna thinks, we head over to the temple in Bhed and see that she is already there trying to collect another Beanie Baby. After getting the Beanie Baby, the Popo show up and arrest us in the temple. After getting arrested, we then get put on trial and find out that the whole religion of Yevon is corrupt, and over half of the maesters are actually undead people. They sentence us all to death so that we can't foil their plans, and they throw us into an underwater maze. On the way out of the maze, we are forced to fight the previous summoners we met. After fighting those previous summoners, we all meet up again, fight Seymour, defeat him, so that we can escape. We then end up in a beautiful forest, and Tidus confronts Yuna about her suicidal tendencies. They both bond, hold hands, and finally make out. To be honest, this made my heart go ooh ooh, and it was sweet. But I am a manly man, and so, back to the action. Now that we escaped for the time being, our plan is to head over to Xanakobo to get the final Beanie Baby that we can use to kill Sin. To get there though, we gotta go through the Calmlands. This takes a few days, and we end up fighting a few monsters and see this weird rock guy. After getting through the Calmlands, we get to the base of the Mount Gagazet, and we finally get to meet Kamari's furry mates from his Discord server. They get into an argument about something that has to do with furries that is way too heathenistic for me to even understand, and Kamari dukes it out with them and shows his dominance. After that interesting display, we head to the mountain pass and run into a revived Seymour for the 40th time and beat him again. Luckily, after doing that, we finally reach the base of Xanarkajo, where we see a bunch of cultists asleep and stuck in a wall. Tidus touches them and faints. After fainting, he re-enters the Matrix one more time, but is self-aware. A little kid shows up and lets him know that he, Tidus, is the Matrix, and that he doesn't really exist. He was created by some sleeping dudes to save the real world of Spira, and that after he is done, they will wake up and the Matrix and him will be no more. Tidus wakes up and decides not to tell anyone about the Matrix and who he really is. The squad continues on with their journey, and finally, they arrive at the ruins of Zunakuda. While walking along the path to the main part of the city, Tidus notices Yuna drop something. He picks it up, and it is her suicide note to them. He keeps it with him, not telling her she dropped it. Before they reach the heart of the ruins, they all decide to take up camp for the night, and they reminisce on the past and their journey so far. As soon as the night is over, they take up their arms and they head out to the temple to get the final Beanie Baby so that they can fight Sin. When they get there, sexy Medusa shows up and tells them that Yuna has to choose someone to sacrifice so that Sin can be defeated. Instead of doing that, they decide to kill Medusa and now have to figure out a new way to beat Sin. They leave the temple and meet back up with Sid at his airship. The squad finds out that Sin, the shark, is actually just a monster that protects the true Sin known as Yu Yevon. They devise a plan to enter Sin, kill it, and kill Yu Yevon too to save Spira. So here is the plan. Step number 1 is to have the planet of Spira start a chant and give their energy so that we can cast a spirit bomb on Sin. Once we fight Sin and cast the spirit bomb, we will then enter its core to kill Yu Yevon. The plan actually goes off without a hitch and the squad enters Sin. When they enter Sin, they actually get transported into the Matrix though, without knowing. Tidus leads them through it, and towards the end of it, they run into Seymour once more, and they actually kill him this time. He is now dead and won't be coming back. Since they no longer have to deal with Seymour, they enter the final part of the Matrix and run into Jekt, Tidus' father. Tidus confronts him for being a piece of poop, and he says, "Yeah, I have been stinky. Now put me to rest." Tidus and the squad kill him, and now that there is no one left to protect Yu Yevon, they can fight and kill Sin for good. Yuna sacrifices all her Beanie Babies and throws them into a fire, and after doing this sacrifice, she is granted the power to kill Yu Yevon. She defeats Yu Yevon, which inherently also kills Sin as well, and now the world is at peace. After defeating Sin, the Matrix was also destroyed in the process. Due to this, Morpheus is also destroyed and laid to rest. Sadly, he isn't the only one that is gone now. Tidus finally shares the truth about himself to everyone and lets them know that he will now fade since the Matrix is gone. He gives Yuna a goodbye hug, they say their goodbyes, and she tells him that she loves him. He jumps off the platform and fades out of existence. Skip forward into the future, and Yuna is giving a speech in honor of everyone that was lost, and how their sacrifices made it possible for them to now live without fear in Spira. Just after the final credits roll for the game, it ends with us seeing Tidus waking up in the ocean. After seeing him wake up and open his eyes, the ending message of the game shows up, and the title screen fades to black. And that is Final Fantasy X for Dummies. I hope that this summary was enjoyable and informative. After watching this, you should have no need to play the game, and you could go up to any fan of the series and spout off your knowledge now. Let me know any more games that you'd like to have a summary on in the future as well. Until then, thank you guys for watching, I appreciate your support, and have a good day.